Hello and welcome into the Bradley Softball Show. I'm Joey Wright alongside Alex Staab. And Alex, we come to our viewers today after a big weekend for the Braves right here at Louisville Slugger Field last week. They swept the Missouri State Bears. They go into a series with Loyola Chicago with a lot of momentum to the Braves.
Missouri State 6-2 going into that series, so Bradley obviously really happy with how things turned out there. And Loyola, a team they swept in Chicago last year, so you got to feel really pleased with where they're at right now.
Certainly do, and that Loyola Chicago series in Chicago this year, so the Braves certainly hoping for a repeat of that. Now, Alex, we'll talk about the Missouri State series first. Bradley comes out of the gates with an exciting 4-3 win on Friday, a Stacia Seaton walk-off that we'll talk about in a moment. And then on Saturday, the pitching really stepped up. They only allowed one run all day, a 5-0 shutout to start things off, and a 4-1 win in the nightcap of that doubleheader to close the series. So the Braves were really firing on all fronts against the Bears this weekend.
And that's one thing I've seen, that when the Braves are at their best, it's been their pitching staff. And I feel like you can look at this bigger picture and say, if we can do that against the 6-2 Missouri State team, we're feeling pretty good going into the rest of the conference schedule.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about pitching, especially Cameron Schaller in that 5-0 win on Saturday morning. Pitched a complete game shutout. The pitch count got up there, but she was able to hang in and get the job done. Really, was phenomenal from start to finish. Held the Bears obviously scoreless, allowed a couple hits, didn't really find herself in big trouble, though, and stayed in and got the win.
One thing that's really impressed me about Cameron, though, is her position in the closer's slot. I've seen her come in a couple times and really work that position really well. I'd like to maybe see her get in that Loyola series, maybe execute that, and see if they can get the job done. She's got 3 saves so far, so something she's done really well.
And that's where, as a starter, when you get off to that hot start, right, when you have that closer experience, you can come in and Amy Hayes, Bradley's head coach, obviously has a lot of trust in her to keep those strong starts going when you know that she can come in and close games out as well.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, I think, is the confidence. She's shown she's had the confidence in the closer positions, done well at the starting position. You talk about that game against Missouri State. I feel like she's definitely risen towards the top, at least, of that pitching staff for the Braves.
And it's a deep pitching staff at times, led by, obviously, Grace French, who pitched a good game on Friday, surrendered 3 runs, 8 hits, but Alex, all those hits were singles, didn't allow any extra base hits, and was able to pitch out of some tough situations, hang in there, and get the win. And we'll talk about Friday's game now. Grace French started it in the circle. Stacia Seaton finished it in the batter's box. What a walk-off performance from her. Drove in 3 runs on the afternoon, but that last one was the biggest.
And that's, I think, the important mentality to have, is forget whatever those previous at-bats were. You got the hit that matters. And if it's the only hit that shows up in the box score, sometimes you've seen that in some really unique games, it's the one that got you the win. And I feel like that was a perfectly executed walk-off.
It absolutely was. Stacia Seaton in the batter's box, closing it out. Also some timely hits from the Braves, and that was important against a Missouri State team that has a good pitching staff. Stephanie Dickerson pitched well over the weekend. Bradley was able to neutralize her. And talking about last weekend with Grace French and Lucy Mead was our own Nicole Pfaff. We'll toss it to her now and see what Nicole had for us. Nicole?
Hello, everyone. I am here with Grace French and Lucy Mead from the Bradley softball team. We'll be talking about this past weekend with the series against Missouri. Going into the series this past weekend, what goals were set on an individual and on a team level?
On a team level, we definitely wanted to come in and do well in the series, obviously, and take some games from Missouri State. And we just wanted to make sure that we were playing our best softball and playing the way we know that we can.
Coming back from the weekend before, we were just really focusing on getting back together and our team chemistry and finding what's going to work best for us. And we came in the weekend firing and ready to go. So it was a fun time.
Let's go into the series opener and talk a little bit about how these goals were exactly met. Although the team did win, what improvements did you individually hope to make going into the doubleheader the next day?
Individually, I wanted to, pitching wise, I pitched on Friday and I wanted to make sure I was still ready to come back on Saturday and just continue to get ahead and pound the zone to make sure that we were in control as a pitching staff. And same at the plate, just being aggressive and take advantage of the pitches that were right there. And yeah.
And for me individually, I have been feeling pretty good defensively and in the field, but I started out Friday a little bit tough at the plate. So it was definitely a big goal of mine to, slow myself down and just get back to what I know and trust myself. And I think it worked out pretty well. I feel pretty confident and good in how I played Saturday.
And moving on to the doubleheader, how did you go about making these improvements?
So I went before our game Saturday with our hitting coach, Coach Huggins, and she sat us all down and we looked at film from the day before and our at bats, and just focused on the little things and just making little improvements throughout the day, and working on adjustments pitch by pitch rather than at bat. So just moving quickly and, like I said, like trusting myself and learning from my mistakes from the day before and taking that and moving into the next day.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Went in early to watch some film and just know the little adjustments that I needed to make and making sure that I was focusing on that pregame so that I could correlate that and translate that into the game.
Grace and Lucy, you both hit inside the park homers during the doubleheader. What is going through your mind at that point in time?
Lucy, you can go.
Well, as soon as I hit it, I did not think it was gonna go over her head. I got lucky and the wind took it a little bit, but the second I hit it, I started going, and when I saw it hit the corner, I just went for it. And coach was waving me around the corner, so all I could think in my mind is I'm running as fast as I can. So I just kept blazing, my arms were pumping, and slid in and was fired up to see my team there at the end. It was a fun experience.
Yeah, for me, I initially thought it was going to be like, I don't know, double or something, but then she dove on the line and our field is pretty big. So her diving on the line, getting that ball into the corner, I just kept going and my coach was waving me at first to go home and then she stopped me, but I ran through it and we kind of knew that their outfielders' arms were sometimes hesitant with their throws, so I knew that I could probably take advantage of that and got home safe and was excited to score a run for the team and get us on the board.
So let's go ahead and fast forward. You have another series at Loyola coming up this weekend. What individual key takeaways from this past weekend will you use for your games against Loyola?
On Friday against Missouri State, I really was getting ahead and pounding the zone pitching wise, and I think that was definitely helped our success. So I will look to continue to do that and just trust myself and stay aggressive at the plate as well.
Yeah, same thing as, I've been doing this a long time and I should be able to trust myself and what I can do and trust my teammates. If no matter how I'm going to get on base, whether it's bunting or slapping or whatever, getting a walk, I can trust that my teammates are going to hit me around and get me to move and everything. And so just focusing on, like I said before, like the little things, whether that's in the field or at the plate, and just keep staying confident and not getting too nervous and too wound up, just taking it pitch by pitch and slowing it down.
As a team, how will you all be preparing for the upcoming series?
I talked about, like last week, we had an amazing week of practice. Every single day, everyone came and was fired up and having a good day and was ready to go. And it definitely showed this weekend. So far, our past couple practices have been really well. And even when we've had some mistakes, we've been able to make adjustments and work through it as a team. And we have our accountability if we do make mistakes. But the same thing, just keep working through this week on individual goals, but also as a team, and keeping our team chemistry up, because the past few weeks we've gotten even stronger together and have gotten a lot closer, and it can show whether that's in the dugout or on the field. Like we all enjoy being around each other. So if we just keep taking the same role and the same feeling and hype that we have from last weekend and moving into next weekend, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we've implemented a couple things throughout the last couple weeks in terms of just making sure we're really specific and knowing what our goals are and focusing on the good things and knowing specifically what we can improve on. So I think that's definitely helped us. And I agree with Lucy completely that I think each week our team chemistry gets better and it just helps us on the field even more. So we're all playing with each other for each other. And yeah.
Is there anything either of you would like to highlight that I didn't ask before?
Yeah, looking at this past weekend, we had one of our freshman pitchers, Cam Schaller, come in and start from that second game for us, and she absolutely killed it. She's been struggling a little bit, but we've been working with her, and to see her come in just fired up, ready to go was awesome. It made me excited being out in the field, getting to play behind her, and you could just see a difference in her demeanor and how she was acting, and I'm hoping she can stick with that, and I really think she can, and that's going to be a big contributor to our to the rest of our season. I think she's really great, and if she keeps working as hard as she is, then it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, it was really exciting seeing her coming out in her first start to just dominate like that. I'm pretty sure she had like 8 strikeouts and she was getting ahead every batter and just dominating. So it was really exciting to see.
Thank you, Grace and Lucy, for joining me today and talking about softball. Best of luck for your series coming up with Loyola, and have a great rest of your day.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to thank Nicole Pfaff for that great stuff. And Alex, Grace French and Lucy Mead, 2 big components of this Bradley team, but they're certainly not where this Bradley team begins and ends. Who are some other Braves that you've seen strong performances from in the first 22 games of the year?
One player that's really impressed me is actually Avery Bloom. Doesn't necessarily start all the time, but does lead the team in batting average in those 40 at-bats, and also a strong .575 slugging percentage, a player I've really been impressed with at the plate. Will catch every now and again, and obviously Stacia Seaton, you got to talk about her, especially with that walk-off. Her 13 RBIs, a team high as well. And I want to talk about Cameron Montier as well, a stat that I feel like couldn't be talked any more about is the on-base percentage, and that's something that she leads the Braves in as well at .384. So a couple of names that you should definitely be keeping an eye out on if you haven't already, which I think would be the case.
Montier, a great consistent piece in that Bradley lineup. And talking about Avery Bloom, I want to go back to, I believe it was Game 2 on Saturday. She was behind the plate. Missouri State has a great player in Daphne Plummer, a lot of speed. She's a great leadoff hitter. She had, entering that game, stolen 10 bases on 10 attempts on the season, but Avery Bloom tossed her out, and I think it was the first inning to kind of set the tone for the Braves. So that was a great defensive play behind the plate.
And that's what you like to see, especially looking at somebody that is 10 for 10 on the base pass, because obviously you look at that, it can be very easy to be intimidated by such a statistic. Avery Bloom said the heck with that, got the runner, and took care of business.
Absolutely. Now, taking a look ahead for the Braves, Loyola Chicago on deck. Braves will be in Chicago for that series. And Alex, it's a matchup that Bradley historically has had some success in. They typically do pretty well against the Ramblers. You know, last couple of years you've had everything going on. The series has been chopped up a little bit, but the Braves are hoping to get back into the win column up in Chicago this week.
Yeah, 26-12 all time. So obviously the Braves have a pretty historical edge there. And the one thing that caught my eye is the bats were working incredibly well in Chicago last year. Braves swept the series 3-0 with runs of 12, 7, and 9 in that order in that Loyola series. So obviously one series to the next, you have your differences, as is the case across the entire sporting world. But if Bradley is able to get those bats worked, coupled with the way the pitching and the defense has worked, especially in this Missouri State series, I feel like the Braves could potentially get another sweep against the Ramblers.
Any picks to click? Any specific Braves that you think we'll keep an eye on?
I think we stick with Stacia Seaton on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like she'll have another good series, especially riding the momentum of that walk-off. And in the pitching, I think I go with Cameron Schaller. I could see her having a big game or two, depending on how Coach Hayes would like to use her in the series. But I could see her having a couple big games or so in the circle.
Absolutely. And Morgan Radford, a name I don't think we've mentioned,
Definitely.
but she also had a good performance in the circle.
Yeah.
If she maybe gets a start, I want to keep an eye on her. Just want to throw that out there before we forget.
She's definitely deserving of it for sure.
Absolutely. So that'll about do it for the Bradley Softball Show this week. For Alex Staab, I'm Joey Wright, Francisco Alonso, and Tim Marucci behind the camera this afternoon. So long from Louisville Slugger Sports Complex. We are just outside of Peterson Hotels Field. Thanks for watching.